The wind bit against her face as she stood on the training ground, breath fogging in the cold dawn. Cadet Riley Harper had been up since 4 a.m., running, crawling, and shooting through another brutal day of Navy SEAL qualification. Her fingers trembled around the rifle. Her uniform was soaked with sweat and mud. And once again, she'd failed. "Reset the course," barked the instructor. Riley's heart sank. It was the 5th time today. She wasn't supposed to be here, at least that's what everyone reminded her. The only woman in her class, constantly under the microscope, constantly doubted. Some of the men smirked when she stumbled, others didn't even bother hiding their disbelief. "She's holding the squad back," someone muttered behind her. "Can't even clear the wall," another voice sneered. Riley tightened her jaw and stared at the obstacle course like it was her enemy. She had trained for this her whole life, running marathons, climbing cliffs, shooting with precision. But SEAL training wasn't just about muscle or endurance. It was about breaking you down until nothing remained but instinct and willpower. And hers was starting to crack. By the time she hit the wall again, her hands were raw, bleeding through her gloves. She jumped, gripped the top, and slid down, landing hard in the mud. The instructor blew the whistle. "Out, you're done for the day." Riley didn't argue. She just nodded, wiping mud from her face. But inside, shame burned hotter than any pain. Every failure felt like proof that everyone was right, she wasn't strong enough. That night, she sat alone in the barracks, staring at her blistered hands. Around her, laughter echoed from the common room, stories, jokes, the easy confidence of those who belonged. She clenched her fists until her nails dug into her palms. She'd passed every academic exam with top scores, she'd outshot half the class during marksmanship, but when it came to endurance, her body seemed to betray her. She thought about quitting, just walking out before they kicked her out. Then she remembered her father's face, the way he used to look at her when she said she wanted to join the SEALs. He'd been a Navy medic, quiet and kind, who believed in her when no one else did. He'd died overseas when she was 16. His last letter had said only one thing: "Finish what you start, Riley." "That's what we Harpers do." She whispered those words under her breath now, again and again, like a prayer. The next morning, the training field buzzed with tension. A high-ranking officer was visiting, a SEAL commander known for being relentless. Some of the men straightened up, whispering his name. Commander Jason Cole, a legend, decorated, the kind of man who had been through the worst and still walked like he carried the ocean in his veins. When he stepped onto the field, everything stopped. His presence was calm but heavy, like thunder before a storm. His eyes scanned the line of cadets, and landed on Riley. "You're Harper," he said. She swallowed. "Yes, sir. I've read your file," he said. Smart, skilled, but failing every combat drill. Her throat tightened. "Yes, sir." He studied her for a long moment. Why? The question hit her harder than a punch. Why was she failing? She could list reasons: fatigue, muscle strength, height disadvantage, but none of them felt like the truth. "I don't know, sir," she said finally. He nodded once. "That's your problem. You're trying to think your way through something that requires instinct. You're treating this like a test. It's not. It's survival." He turned to the instructors. "Reset the course." A ripple went through the squad. Riley stared at him in disbelief. "Sir, you're running it again," he said, voice like steel. Now, the whistle blew. She started. The ground was slick with rain, the air cold enough to sting her lungs. Her boots pounded against the mud as she dove, crawled, rolled, and sprinted through the course again. And again, her body screamed. Her shoulders burned climbing the rope. Her arms shook when she tried to vault the wall. Her foot slipped, and she fell, face first into the dirt. "Get up," someone yelled, but it wasn't anger in the commander's tone. It was command, calm, absolute authority that somehow cut through the chaos. Riley pushed up, spitting out dirt. Her vision blurred with sweat. The world narrowed to the sound of her breathing and his voice echoing across the field. "Don't think. Move." She ran again, muscles screaming. "Stop fighting the course. Flow through it." Something shifted inside her. She stopped trying to control every move and just reacted. Her body began to find rhythm in the madness. She jumped, grabbed, swung, slipped again, but this time caught herself before falling. The men watching had gone quiet. Even the instructor looked surprised. Riley reached the final obstacle, the high wall. She stared up at it, her heart pounding. Every failure flashed through her mind like lightning. Then she heard his voice again, steady, low, certain. "You've got one order, Harper. Don't stop until you're over that wall." She clenched her teeth, ran, and leapt. Her fingers caught the top. Her foot found a crack. She pulled, muscles trembling, vision tunneling, and then, finally, she was over. She dropped down on the other side, landing on her knees, gasping, mud streaking her face, but smiling for the first time in weeks. The field was silent. Then, slowly, someone clapped. Commander Cole stood with his arms crossed, unreadable. But there was a faint hint of approval in his eyes. He stepped closer. "You see the difference, Harper?" She nodded, barely able to speak. "You stopped trying to prove them wrong," he said. "You started fighting for yourself. That's the switch." He turned away, but not before adding, "Remember this day. Because from now on, you don't have permission to fail." And with that, he walked off, leaving her standing in the mud, heart racing, tears mixing with the rain. For the first time, she didn't feel like the weakest in the squad. She felt like she belonged. That night, Riley didn't sit alone. The same cadets who used to doubt her now nodded in quiet respect. No words, no applause, just acknowledgement. She looked at her bruised hands and smiled faintly. Because sometimes, it took just one voice, one order, to turn fear into fire. And Commander Cole's order had done exactly that. The next morning, the base seemed different. The air felt heavier, charged, alive. The cadets gathered before sunrise, shoulders squared, boots lined in precision on the cold concrete. Riley Harper stood among them, mud still clinging to her uniform, hands still aching, but her eyes burned with a new kind of determination. Commander Jason Cole was back on the field. His presence pulled silence out of the crowd. No one dared to shift, cough, or even blink too loudly. He didn't need to shout to be heard. His voice carried the weight of a man who'd seen the edge of life and death, and returned with lessons written in scars. "Today," he said, pacing in front of them, "you will work in pairs. But understand this, one of you will lead. The other will follow. Fail to move as one, and you both fail." He looked over the line and stopped at Riley. "Harper, you lead." Murmurs rippled through the squad. Some rolled their eyes, others looked skeptical. Riley ignored them. She didn't feel the old fear anymore. Her partner was Jackson Pierce, a 6'2" powerhouse who'd made it clear he didn't think she belonged there. He gave her a tight, humorless smile. "Guess I'm in your capable hands, Harper." She just nodded. "Then let's get through it." The whistle shrieked. The two took off, sprinting through the wet dirt toward the obstacle zone. The course had doubled in complexity: mud pits, wire crawls, balance beams slick with rain. Jackson moved fast, almost too fast, forcing Riley to keep up. "Slow down," she shouted. "Can't. You lead, remember." He threw back, mocking her. But when he hit the crawl under the barbed wire, his foot snagged. He went down hard, groaning as mud caked his face. Riley didn't hesitate. She turned, grabbed his vest strap, and pulled. "Move," she barked. "Now." Jackson stared at her for half a second, then obeyed. They crawled side by side, the wire inches from their backs. Every muscle screamed, every breath burned. But when they emerged on the other side, something had shifted. They stopped being competitors and became a team. By the time they hit the rope climb, they were in sync. When he slipped, she braced. When she lagged, he pushed. They moved like one body split in two. Commander Cole watched from a distance, arms folded, expression unreadable. But when Riley and Jackson crossed the finish line together, collapsing in the mud, he gave a short nod. "Good," he said simply. "That's how it's done." The men looked at Riley differently now. Not as a burden, but as one of them. Even Jackson, covered in dirt and breathing hard, managed a grin. "Guess I was wrong about you, Harper." She laughed softly. "You and everyone else." That night, the barracks buzzed with new energy. Someone passed her a cup of coffee, an unspoken gesture of respect. No one said congratulations, but they didn't need to. She'd earned her place, one bruise at a time. But the next day, everything changed again. At 0500, the alarm blared. Full combat simulation. All units, gear up. The cadets scrambled into formation, adrenaline spiking. Commander Cole briefed them quickly: mock ambush, live conditions, full endurance mode. The simulation would test everything: strategy, leadership, survival. Riley's heart pounded as she checked her rifle, adjusted her vest, and glanced at the squad beside her. She wasn't the weakest link anymore, but she wasn't the strongest either. They deployed into the mock combat zone, a wide stretch of forest and hills laced with smoke and simulated explosions. The fog made everything look unreal, like a war dream. The objective was clear: reach the extraction point and secure the flag. But halfway through the course, the team hit chaos. An explosion rocked the area, one of the mock mines, and Jackson went down, ankle twisted, yelling in pain. "Leave me," he shouted. "Go get the flag." But Riley froze. Cole's voice echoed in her mind: "You lead, they follow." "Not happening," she said, crouching beside him. "You're coming with us." She threw his arm over her shoulder, muscles screaming under his weight. The others hesitated, looking back. "Move," she shouted. "Cover us," and they did, without question. She dragged Jackson through the mud, the fake gunfire roaring overhead, smoke burning her throat. Every step felt impossible, every breath heavier than the last. But she didn't stop. Somewhere beyond the trees, she heard the whistle, signaling the mission's end. But Riley didn't celebrate. She collapsed beside Jackson, chest heaving, vision fading. Commander Cole appeared out of the fog, calm as ever. "Report," he said. "Objective secured," one of the cadets answered. "Casualty carried to extraction." Cole looked at Riley, still kneeling in the dirt. "You could have reached the flag faster without him." She nodded weakly. "I know, sir." "Then why didn't you?" She met his eyes. "Because SEALs don't leave their own behind." For a moment, silence hung heavy between them. Then, slowly, Cole smiled. It wasn't the kind of smile that came easy. It was the kind that meant respect. "Harper," he said, "that's the first correct answer you've ever given me." He turned to the others. "Listen up. You all watched her drag 190 pounds of dead weight through a quarter-mile of mud under fire. That's leadership. That's instinct. That's what keeps men alive when it's real." Riley felt something break open in her chest. Not pride, something deeper. Purpose. The men around her started clapping. One by one, slow and steady, until the sound filled the air. Commander Cole raised his hand to silence them. "You all remember this," he said, voice firm. "There's a difference between passing drills and earning the uniform. Harper just earned hers." Later, when the sun dipped below the horizon, Riley stood alone by the water's edge. The sea reflected streaks of gold and fire across the surface. She thought about every failure, every bruise, every night she'd cried quietly in her bunk thinking she wasn't good enough. And now, she was here. Still standing. She heard footsteps behind her. Commander Cole stood there, hands clasped behind his back. "You did good today," he said quietly. "Thank you, sir," she replied. He nodded toward the horizon. "You know, the first time I trained, I failed, too. Thought about quitting. Then my commander gave me one order: don't ever let fear make your decisions." Riley smiled faintly. "Sounds familiar." He chuckled. "Yeah, guess I passed it on." They stood in silence for a moment, watching the waves crash against the shore. "Harper," he said finally, "you've got the heart of a SEAL. Keep that, and the rest will come." As he walked away, the sea wind caught her hair, carrying his words with it. She looked down at her reflection, mud still on her face, eyes fierce and alive, and whispered to herself, "Don't stop until you're over the wall." That was the order that had changed everything. From that day on, Riley Harper wasn't the cadet who failed every combat drill. She was the one who turned failure into fire, the recruit who proved that sometimes, all it takes is one command, one moment, one voice to pull you from the mud and set you on the path to greatness. Because SEALs don't just train for war. They train to become unbreakable. And she finally understood, so was she. Some people wait for someone to believe in them. Others rise the moment someone gives a single order: don't stop. If Riley's story moved you, share it. Somewhere, someone needs to hear that one voice that can turn their failure into fire.